Hey guys, the UK Chancellor just unveiled the Autumn Statement, an attempt to close a so-called black hole, a £55 billion black hole. Today, he essentially split that 55 billion, coming from 50% of it came from tax cuts and 50% of it came from cuts to public spending. Today, I want to just unpack what this means for our personal finances. What does it mean for your pocket right now? Because honestly, I feel so frustrated. I feel like we've all literally just been robbed. So today I want to just unpack what that means, because literally there's so much to go through. So please bear with me as I walk through the various areas, the key announcements that were made and how they relate to our personal finances. I'd love you to also jump in the comments and react actually. How do you actually feel about what I'm sharing as I go through it? And I want you to keep a few questions in mind as you watch. Because the Chancellor announced when he started his key speech, he started by saying that our core priorities are stability, growth, and public services. And I'd love you to actually really think and reflect and let me know in the comments whether you feel, from what I'm saying to you, whether you feel a sense of, do you know what, we're going to be growing in the UK economy, we're going to have stability, and our public services are going to be secure. Let me know as you go through, react in the comments, and let me know if you're enjoying today's video or finding it useful. I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel, because we create these updates on the economy as and when they happen. Now, on the point about stability, he acknowledged that we are officially in a recession. He went on to say inflation, as announced recently, stands at 11.1%. Inflation, the highest it's been in 41 years, since 1981, is our biggest enemy, okay? And he highlighted something which I thought was a positive note, in that the Bank of England now has his full support. And together, fiscal policy and monetary policy are coming together to tackle this one big enemy, which is inflation. But he did quote something which was interesting and odd at the same time. He said, I quote, "We want lower taxes and sound money," which all sounds good, all sounds great. But as you see when I start to unveil right now, why is now the time to levy taxes on people whilst they're struggling to pay their mortgages, struggling with childcare, struggling with rent, struggling with skyrocketing inflation across food, across all aspects of our lives, including energy costs? Why now? Why is now the time to take more money away from people? In addition to announcing more taxes and things, it's worth noting that the big announcements he made were made to come across as though we are all doing this together. Everybody is going to feel the pain. When in actual fact, as you come to see, this particular budget, this particular autumn statement, if you really read between the lines, is really aimed at people who are earning fairly decent wages, but not the super high earners. Even though it's made for us to believe that it is fair that everybody is paying their own way and everybody is paying more in taxes. Okay, from an economic perspective, let me give you the headline numbers. Inflation, 11.1% as at now. Okay, they acknowledged, as I mentioned earlier, the UK is in a recession. The economy will shrink by 1.4% in 2023. Growth is expected to be 1.3% in 2024 and apparently increasing to 2.6% in 2025. Okay, the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, also forecasts that inflation will drop to 9.7% by the end of the year and 7.4% next year. Okay, so this is probably the only good news that I can probably, there's probably other things I'll mention, which you see later on, but this is one of the most standout economic projections that were put forward. Okay, so with all that out and trying to keep myself calm, let me now explain the various areas. Let's talk about personal tax. The first thing is a higher rate tax will now, of 45%, will now apply to many more people. So the threshold used to be £150,000. If you earn above that, you fall into 45% top tax rate. That has now changed. That threshold will now go down from 150,000 to 125,140 pounds. Okay, and I quote, he says here, he said those earning £150,000 or more will pay just over £1,200 or more a year. Okay, that's what they will be paying in addition. Okay, and then he says for anyone earning £125,000, not only will they be paying more tax at the top rate, but remember that their personal allowances will also disappear. So if anyone who's earning at that level, and I know many of you watch our channel, don't earn any amount near that sort of salary. But bear in mind, just think about what this means as you are earning more. You are effectively being disincentivized from earning more. Okay, so for anyone who's earning 125k, not only would they of course have lost all their personal allowances, because you lose that, I believe £2 for every pound over 100k, you start to lose that at around 124k thereabouts, you would have lost all your personal allowances. So just mentioning that, if I was someone in those shoes who's earning that sort of money, the incentive would then be to put more of your money into pensions, because then you can bring your taxable gross income down to around 100k or less, and therefore hope to retain more of your personal allowances. So that's higher rate tax. So people who are lucky enough to earn that much money, and I'm fully aware that most people don't, okay, but worth mentioning. Next area of changes is tax-free allowances. And this is one of the biggest areas of frustration. Listen to this, right? The income tax personal allowance threshold will remain frozen until the year 2028. Just think about that. Take your age right now and add the age of 6 to it. Basically, what they're saying is that more of your income will be subject to tax. This is one of those silent taxes. And he did not dwell much on this one. He dwelt a lot on the people who are earning, 100 and something K. But on this one, which affects everybody, he did not dwell very much on this one. Just think about that. The implication for me, imagine my 10-year-old son. By the age, he will have to be at the age of 16 before I see my personal allowance threshold actually change. It will be frozen for 6 years, and this will be affecting you as well. This means more people will be paying a lot more tax silently. Any pay rises you get, more tax will be paid on that. In addition, because that threshold will remain flat. Okay, it's worth mentioning. Now, on dividend allowance, which is the next thing, the dividend allowance, the amount that you get when you earn dividends, without paying any tax on it, will be changing. So at the moment, it's £2,000 a year. It'll be cut to £1,000 a year next year, decreasing to £500 a year. Oh, it's just so laughable. From April 2024, £500. This is a massive blow to entrepreneurs, small business owners, the people who are meant to be growing the economy. Remember the mandate. Remember the core priorities we talked about earlier. Growth, stability, public services. How is a cut to dividends helping incentivize people who are taking risks to grow the economy? How? I don't see it. Do you see it? Let me know in the comments. This is a blow, obviously, to entrepreneurs and small business owners who often pay themselves via a mix of salaries and dividends. The next big change, and this is big, is capital gains tax. Okay, the annual allowance before you pay tax on capital gains, from when you sell, an asset, at the moment is £12,300, but it's now expected to be reduced from £12,300 per year to £6,000 from April 2023. That's like in a few months from now. And then, doesn't end there, drops to £3,000 a year later in 2024. Remember, this affects all assets. Whether you're selling, whether you've got shares, whether you've got property, whether you've got crypto, all these will be affected because of this change in capital gains tax. In addition, or whether you've got a second home. Yeah. In addition, let's think about how this affects our personal finances. Investors who have money outside their ISAs or their pensions will be hit a lot hard. So if you've got a general investing account or anything like that, there isn't a tax efficient account, you will be hit a lot hard, because it means when you sell those investments, more of your money will be going towards paying taxes. Remember, more taxes at a time when you're struggling, at a time when you're working hard, you're trying to upskill, you're trying to earn more taxes. These people are literally stealing our money from our pockets, not just as a one-off, but for years to come. let's talk about buy-to-let investors. I've singled this one out because I know lots of people watch our channel have aspirations to invest in property, or already property investors, or who might want to own property one day. Yeah. Following on from the changes in capital gains tax, buy-to-let investors who own property via a limited company face a triple whammy. Why? Because you remember from my last updates, we had changes to corporation tax coming. So people who are making profits from their properties, yeah, will now obviously have more corporation tax to pay. Yeah. And obviously those people would have been facing higher interest rates, which means, there's less profits to make anyway on their properties. But in addition to more corporation taxes, now more tax to pay on dividends if they withdraw their profits they're making from their buy-to-let properties as income via dividends. They'll be paying more on dividends, and they'll also be they definitely will be paying more in tax when they come to sell those properties from a capital gains tax perspective. So what this will likely do is it will likely discourage some landlords from selling, because why would you? If you've got all these things down the line, you might want to hang on. But then again, who knows? This might actually lead to decrease in the supply of property in certain parts of the various property markets. Another area of big change is benefits. Okay, so means-tested benefits, including universal credit, will now rise in line with inflation. Okay, so this is 10.1% increase in inflation from next April is expected. This will help around 10 million families. So this is good news. So apparently, on average, a family on universal credit will benefit by around £600. Now, here's something else that he said, which is very interesting. He said he is committed to helping, and this is for people who are, who are not working and who are on benefits and stuff. He's committing to helping people, and I quote, raise their income, find work, and become more financially independent. Never thought I'd hear our Chancellor use those words, but apparently this is what they're planning to do. To this end, he announces they'll be asking over 600,000 more people on universal credit to meet with a work coach so that they can get supported with the help they need to increase their work hours or earnings and things like that. Okay, so tied to that support for people who are, at the other end of the spectrum. So we've looked at high earners, looked at people who are in between earning kind of normal average earnings, then look at people who are maybe lower end of the scale, perhaps on benefits. There's also another change, another announcement around the targeted support for cost of living. So I'll just read here, made some of my notes. They've said here that an additional payment of £900 will be paid to those on means-tested benefits. So £300 in addition to for pension households, and £150 for people on disability benefits. Okay, so that's good news. Next change is on the national living wage. The Chancellor confirmed that the national living wage will be increased from £9.50 for over 23-year-olds to £10.42 from April next year. Okay, apparently this represents an annual pay rise of over £1,600 for a full-time worker. Okay, now looking at pensions, I know this is a big one for those people who have access to pensions. I'm not one of those people. I invest into my pensions, I've got years ahead of me. But if you are someone who has access to pensions, the pension triple lock has been protected. This means that a state pension will rise in line with inflation in April. So the new state pension will increase from £185.15 per week and go all the way up to £203.85. So a rise of 10.1% thereabouts. Now let's speak about something that everybody can relate to, which is energy bills. Okay, help for energy bills will be extended, but it will not be as generous as it was before. So let's look specifically. This will affect millions of people. So you will remember the £2,500 energy price guarantee that we had announced only a few months ago. Now, apparently, they want to try and keep that scheme. They believe in that scheme. However, they've changed that limit to £3,000 now. Yeah, that so-called cap. That means that more of us will be paying more in energy bills from from April. Okay, this scheme will run for the next 12 months from April. 12 months. So keep an eye on that. Okay. But they've also highlighted that the typical usage for families is around, or for people, for households in the UK, is around £3,700 on average, thereabouts. Experts have said. But with this increase of 3,000, it means essentially that more of us will be paying more in energy bills. But in addition to that, you remember that £400 rebate that we were all getting and still getting now. That £400 rebate will be disappearing. So not only will we have no rebate, but we're also going to have higher energy bills down the line. And this is only promised for 12 months. A big blow for people at a time when prices are increasing. There were promises made about things like this scheme remaining in place for 2 years. You remember there was that 2-year promise, disappeared. Not only was that now to remain for 6 months, but they've now come around and increased that to £3,000. A huge blow for so many people struggling with their energy costs at the moment. Looking at stamp duty, you remember that there was a reference to the stamp duty cut that was made recently to support first-time buyers and people like that. There was a reference to that becoming a permanent change. However, don't hold your breath too long, because they have changed their minds on that one and introduced a whole new deadline of March 2025 for when all those changes they made about stamp duty. You'd remember the changes were £425,000 for first-time buyers, and also the limit at which you get stamp duty on a purchase of property increased from £125,000 to £250,000. Yeah, you remember those changes. All those changes will get reversed in March 2025. And this next one, in addition to the many other things that have frustrated me from this particular autumn statement that's been billed as made to look really good, but actually if you pay close attention, it really isn't for us, is the next change is with electric cars. Hands up if you've been made to buy an electric car, or if you've been, if you're on your journey or savings to try and buy an electric car. I bought an electric car in 2017. One of my big appeals for buying it is low emissions, no tax, because I've got zero emissions in my car. But guess what? It's been announced that the exemption for electric cars from the vehicle excise duty, aka more tax, will no longer exist from April 2025. That means even more tax coming down the line. So I kind of ask myself, what's the whole point? Okay, yes, it's the emissions, but I'm still paying more tax. And that's the reality. These people just want to take more and more money from us, and yet they tell us they're trying to make the economy grow. I don't know. You tell me in the chat whether all of this stuff I'm saying to you adds up to growth for the UK economy. Okay. In conclusion, I feel genuinely robbed in so many ways. Yes, there are pockets of things that have been announced that are good. So on the benefits front, for people who are on, who really genuinely struggling from a low income perspective, there's certain pockets of things that are announced that are helpful. Then there are those for pensioners and their triple lock and those things. But for the people who are like in the middle, those people who are, upskilling, trying to earn more and so on, and struggling with their mortgages. And let's not forget, I want to remind everybody, a lot of what we're seeing and a lot of it was blamed on global activities. Yeah, the war in Ukraine, Russia and Ukraine, all these things, COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, they have a role to play. But let's not forget that a lot of the mistakes, a lot of the incompetence, a lot of the mess that we found ourselves in economically has come from decisions by the same people who are today saying to us, hey, I'm sorry, you see all that hard work you've been doing? Yeah, sorry, I have to take some of your money now in taxes. So for me, I personally feel robbed. And I'd love for you to tell me how you feel about these announcements. Again, remember, why now? And does what's been announced align with the so-called priorities on growth, stability, and public services? You tell me. Let me know in the comments. I want to wrap up by saying that there were other things that were announced, but focused primarily on the areas that affect our personal finances. So there was windfall taxes and all this other stuff, and more money put into education and so on. But like I said, today I've covered purely the bits that really hit our personal finances, the realities of our lives day to day, whilst we struggle to navigate a current recession, the longest recession, as we're told, in the last 100 years. Please jump in the comments. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys for watching. Share this video with anybody else who you think might find it useful. Take care. Bye for now.